Hey everybody, it's Joel with the Board Game Mechanics, home of the new black background. What do you think? Is it cool? I think it's kind of cool. My wife said she wanted that for when we do videos together because the green screen didn't work very well for her. So anyway, I'm going to try this black background thing out for these top 100 or whatever this ends up being. It makes your life easy for me, to be honest, so I can crank these videos out pretty quick. But at any rate, just something new. I guess you probably don't care about that too much, though, to be honest. So let's get right at it, okay? Number 190 to 181. These are games that I would all classify as really good games. I would classify these at least as a 6 out of 10, maybe some higher. So, and then the other piece too is like, I think you guys get this. If you are in a certain mood to play a game, it might be higher that day. You know what I mean? So this is like, maybe this day I didn't like these games that much. Maybe I'll make some corrections as we're going, saying, I don't know why this one's as low as it is, but, or as high as it is. So anyway, enough rambling. You guys want to see the games, right? So let's get right to it. Number 190. 190 is Palace of Mad King Ludwig. I said it right. I usually say palaces. You're building one palace with a bunch of other players. It's a tile-laying game. You're trying to basically make a set collection thing happen by getting the right rooms put into the same, basically putting the same like kinds of rooms together with like these swan symbols matching up, so you can click swans, which is a big part of your points. But you're collecting all these points for like completing rooms and doing things and getting benefits from completing rooms and basically drafting these rooms and placing them out. And then you have this little player board where you're trying to bump things up by getting certain kinds of rooms out in certain numbers. It's really a set collection tile laying game. It can be abstracted as anything, but in this one we're making a really big palace for King Ludwig. So it's pretty fun. I actually think I might, on a lot of days, like this one better than Castles of Mad King Ludwig, just because, I don't know, I think the square tiles are something. I don't know, there's just some pieces of this game that I really like. The set collection thing is like one of my favorite mechanics. So this one's really fun. Number 190, Palace of Mad King Ludwig. And this one was hot for like a month and it disappeared. So I don't know if you see this one around, maybe you should get a chance to play it. Number 189 is No Thanks. This is a little like anti-trick taking game. Like you don't want cards, you don't want points. You're trying to shed points and not have any points if you can help it. But there's two little things that happen in this. So a card flips over randomly out of the stack. You don't have a hand of cards or anything, but you have these little plastic poker chips, and you can either say no thanks, put one of those plastic poker chips on the card, and it goes to the next person who has to either take it or do the same thing. Or you can take the card. And if you take the card, you have to take the points on the card. And you don't want points. So if it's a high numbered card, you're going to be using a lot of the little poker chips to try and avoid it. The other thing that's kind of clever in this game is if you get a run of cards, like a straight in poker, you get to take just the value of like the lowest card. So if you have like, let's say 17, you don't mind taking 18 because it's not going to count against you. And you might want to wait a while to see some of those little poker chips flop down. And you know, like, so you can get like, manipulate the fact that nobody wants an 18-point card and make it work for you because you have the 17. Sometimes you have the 17 and the 19, and people know that you want that 18, and they'll take it just to screw you. So like now all of a sudden, instead of having 17 points, you have 36 points because you didn't get that card in the middle of that run. So it's fun. It's like a push your luck, kind of like a little like anti-trick taking game, to be honest. So No Thanks, number 189. 188 is Tiny Epic Galaxies. Just such a small box. These tracks that you're moving up on. It can be abstracted to any theme, really, but the mechanics of this game are really good. And for it being in such a small box, it's a very good game. So this is a travel game that you could take just anywhere. It's not hard to teach either. So this is something that would be a good keep it in your backpack all the time kind of game and just be ready to play it whenever. So I really do like this game. It's just so compact. And then there was even a more compact one the size of a deck of cards on Kickstarter this year. So I think it's just a neat little game. It's just great to have and take with you places. And just for the size, the compact size and the rich gameplay, it makes it on the list at number 188. Just a good game. 187. Oh boy, this one's dropped like 150 plus spots, because another game in my top 100 has kind of nuked it. I guess I haven't played this game much in the last year, if at all, because Dice Throne has really replaced this game to me. And they aren't the same game, but that head-to-head dueling back and forth thing, I really enjoy Dice Throne right now. And this one used to be what I did for that. This game's basically, you have a faction of people, like the Frostmane people. I don't think they're called the Frostmanes, but like they're like the you know, like the jungle people, the Amazons, the just different kinds of like basically factions. And then you can kind of do some customizing. You can put some mercenaries in there. You can put like different heroes in there a little bit. So it's like a little bit of customizing your deck. But then you put your deck out in this like prearranged pattern, and then your cards move. Like they move around the table on this grid, and they have powers, and you're trying to like basically get more mana or more currency by killing their guys, which is kind of cool that gives you currency, but then also discarding cards out of your hand to get more currency to put more cards out. So cards are this thing that you're balancing so much that you don't want to give them too many of your cards to, because if you do, they're going to get really powerful and be able to put more cards out. But you're basically trying to like, it's like chess meets Magic the Gathering kind of. You're trying to take out their faction leader. So a really interesting game, a lot of fun actually. I played this one a couple years ago. It was in my top 20, I'm sure. And I still like this game a lot. But that said, I think Dice Throne's got it beat right now for me and for what it does. That's similar to this. So certainly not a bad game. Anything in these top 200 is a game that I really enjoy. So this one's kind of hard to find too. I think it's out of print. I'm not positive if this one's going to get a reprint at some point, but it's a fun little game, like miniatures, chess meets Magic the Gathering kind of thing. Pretty fun. And I think this is kind of the game that built Plaid Hat. So Summoner Wars. Sentinels of the Multiverse is an awesome game. It's amazing. It's amazing, amazing, amazing. But it's a really even better app. This game's got a lot of like fiddliness to it. You're playing cooperatively with a deck of cards already built for a superhero, and you're fighting against a villain. And the villain has different powers that impact how you play as the superhero. And then beyond that is a city that you're playing in, or setting you're playing in, and that impacts the game too. And so all these things that impact the game mean you have to keep track of a lot of things. And then your hero impacts the game too. So there's a bunch of little like chit things that you have to put down to keep track of how things are being modified and stuff. The gameplay itself is really fun. You feel like you're a superhero fighting a bad guy. But the combination of Reckoners coming out and this being an app that's really good, and you don't have to keep track of all that little fiddly scoring, has made this one drop a lot, like probably 100 spots or so. So I really like this game. It's still in my collection. I still will play it if someone asks me to. And actually, the more I'm talking about it right now, the more I do want to play it. And there is something to playing a game on tabletop versus on a screen. So it's still a good game, and it's still worth having around, I think. But it's down to 186 now, which these are still really good games, guys. I really like them, and I would play them. But that said, there's other games that I would rather play, 185 is Tales of the Arabian Nights. This is a game where you're doing like some storytelling, interacting with a storybook kind of. You go different places, and then this matrix like basically would have like a despondent sultan would encounter you in the desert. And so like the descriptor and the thing would come together, and you would read based on the matrix that you used an encounter. And so your encounter would say, you encounter this guy in his caravan, blah, blah, blah. What do you do? And then you have like choices. You could like honor him. You could try and attack him. You could try and rob from him. You could try, do all these things. And then that's going to correspond to another paragraph or another entry. So then that entry, you're going to go to that and read what happened as a result of your choice. Sometimes it'll give you fame. Sometimes it'll give you money. Sometimes it'll make you crippled. Sometimes it'll do things like that. So it's pretty wild. It's a fun activity, but it's not much of a game because there's so much luck in just making the right choices. I mean, and there's bizarre things like you can drink a tiger. What? And then the story makes sense. It's like, I don't know, the tiger had a flask of milk and you drank tiger milk. Tiger milk's a fun thing to say. Anyway, Tales of the Arabian Nights is 185. It's a fun activity, but it's not necessarily a game, and it needs the right group. Every time I play it, I do enjoy it, but it's just, I don't feel like playing it as much as I would like to, probably, or as much as I would like to have it be higher than 185. So this is one that my wife really does enjoy, though, and that's why it's still in the collection. And I don't mind it, too, to be honest. It's an interesting activity, but not playing it as a game is probably the best way to go. 184 is Pandemic Iberia. This is a game that is basically, it's Pandemic, but then you throw in some like networking and connecting kind of ideas in there. This is probably the highest Pandemic game on my list. I have not played Rising Tide and I have not played Fall of Rome, but there's not a lot in Pandemic that I really enjoy that much. I feel like the mechanics of it, I'm grateful for that we have this whole like do this certain number of actions, then resolve cards thing that happens in so many cooperative games. And Pandemic definitely was like the starter of that, but it's not aged well with me. And I don't like co-op games that much anyway. So this one's fairly high for a co-op game. I don't think there's mini co-op games on this list. There's one higher than it just because of the expansion that came out this last year. But anyway, you'll have to watch to find that one, I guess. But as far as a pandemic game goes, this is one that I like because it adds that little extra layer of something interesting that's new to me. Instead of just doing that, go do like your job and work cooperatively to solve this puzzle thing. So adding those little like train tracks, that networking thing, kind of cool. So Pandemic Iberia 184. All right, let's do this one. 183 is the Coup. This is a game where you have two cards placed face down in front of you, and you have these roles of like these characters that have powers. So for example, the Duke can take extra money beyond other people, and the assassin can kill people, like trying to attempt to kill people for cheap. But you're trying to eliminate everyone else's cards. So the assassin would help eliminate someone's card. And the Duke, by having 12 money, you can do a coup and you automatically unblockably kick someone out of the game or one of their cards out of the game. So you're trying to collect money. You're trying to bluff to get more money at different times. You're trying to bluff to steal money from other people. You're trying to assassinate people. And then there's things that can block the assassinations. So you're doing all this bluffing, trying to like pretend like you're unsusceptible. Is that the word? Yeah. Unsusceptible to like their powers. And then you really are maybe, and you're bluffing. But if you get called for your bluff, you lose a card. So one example is if you're getting assassinated and you say, I have the Contessa who blocks assassinations, but you don't, you lose a card for not being the Contessa. And then you go ahead and get assassinated. So you go out of the game in one turn. But bluffing to be like the Duke or something isn't as bad because people aren't going to challenge that until eventually you get a ton of coins. And then they might say, I don't think you're really the Duke. The other thing too is there's only a certain number of each card in the deck. And you see like certain cards go face up as characters get killed off. So if I've been bluffing that I'm the Duke and then a couple Dukes flip over face up, I'm in trouble because people start to know I'm bluffing. So if you're bluffing, you lose a card as well. So it's a bluffing, collect money, try and eliminate other people's cards game. Really fun. This one was a nice change of pace from the Resistance because it kind of happens in the same universe, but it's just another kind of bluffing game, and it's not as dependent on you having good teammates, which the Resistance is. Resistance is still a really good game. Probably will show up later. Spoiler. 182, Coliseum. This game's awesome because of the components. For one thing, it has these awesome metal coins, thick cardboard tiles that have recesses in them. It has like you add bleachers and podiums to your little Coliseum. So the game becomes like almost a 3D little board of all these different little Coliseums. But basically what you're doing is you're building a Coliseum up, trying to expand your Coliseum, make it better and more capable of bigger audiences so that you can throw better shows and get points for throwing these grand shows. But then the way how you get resources for these shows is through negotiating with other players. So it's a negotiation game at its heart, but you're managing this Coliseum, trying to get it to be as good as possible and get you a bunch of points. And at some levels, people don't like this game because it's got like a definite kingmaker thing to it. And people can, I think, feel like they're being treated unfairly and not being given fair opportunities if they are a strong player. So there's a popularity element to it, I guess, because of negotiation. But that's in any negotiation game, I guess, too. So Coliseum, though, a good negotiation game. Maybe one of my higher ones on the list. I haven't played Sidereal Confluence. I want to play that one really badly. That's just a side note. Anyway, 181. Revolution by Steve Jackson Games. This one's designed by Philip DeBerry. He's going to have at least a couple more games on this list. He's a designer I really do enjoy. But this is a bidding game where you're doing blind bidding behind a screen on a number of different locations that you could influence, either using blackmail, or money, or other kinds of power to try and influence people out in the city and try and get more influence in this little town. And then as you get more influence in this town, you take control of these areas and score points. You also are doing these things to try and continue to get more currency and more blackmail and more things like that to use to influence the town. But the key on it is this: you don't want to lose any of your auctions or little bids because you lose out. So it's a mean game at times, but it's just really curious. There's like, I think 16 spots on this board. And if you're playing with like even 4 players, you're like, okay, what are the odds someone's going to put this kind of currency in this spot more than this? And there's ties a lot and there's things like that. So, and you're always kind of trying to keep track of like what currency people have and where those currency can be used at and trying to figure out like what's in their head, where they want to go. So like cool predicting game on what you're trying to think they're going to predict they're bidding on. And you want to bid on things cheaply that no one else is going to bid on. Or bid high enough on places that you really have to get to that you're going to win. Because if you lose your bids, that's the worst. So at any rate, it's got really awesome player boards in it. Like the components in this game are really good. Like the cardboard and everything is great. This game I think would have been more popular too if it didn't have the box cover that you're seeing over my shoulder. So the box cover I think is real basic looking, and it's force, blackmail, and gold are your currency in this. And so I don't know. I think this one's pretty good. It's just got a bad box, and it's from Steve Jackson Games, and it's a Euro game. So like people bought this thinking it was going to be like a cool Munchkin expansion, maybe. I don't know. And it just kind of didn't become as successful as it might have otherwise. So it's a really good game. Everyone I've played it with has been like, that's a great game. And I didn't know it was a great game. So this is one that I would say is a hidden gem kind of. At number 181, I have Revolution. This one was quite a bit higher last year because I was playing it more. And I think my co-host for the podcast, Jason, will probably have this one in his top 100 if I had to guess, or it'll be close to breaking his top 100. We both really like this game. So, and I'll take credit for exposing him to this game. So at any rate, Revolution, pretty cool game. Has a couple little expansions, number 181. So I'm going to go ahead and try and kick out another one of these videos even today. So look for maybe like 2 of these every weekend until I get to number 101. And then if you want to know what numbers 100 to number 1 are, you're going to have to check out the podcast or wait till maybe 2020 when I actually do the videos for it. So the podcast, you can find it at the website listed in our description below. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And these lists are always they're as fun to do as they are to watch, or maybe more fun to do than to watch. So thanks for watching and like just hanging out. Leave a comment. And I try my best to reply to most of the comments at this point. Like our audience is small enough that we can do that still. So that's one of the cool things. If you're watching this and you're seeing this right here, leave a comment. Why not? Like, we'll get back with you. So, also, if you're sub, man, you really are a friend. So like our fans are kind of friends at this point. So we try and interact with you guys as much as we can, and we really enjoy you guys. So thank you for the thumbs. Thank you for the subs. Thank you, all of you guys, for your support. The channel's been growing like crazy lately. So really appreciate that. I've been Joel with Board Game Mechanics, and keep gaming.